Shit, bitch be up in my DMs. Some naked pigs trying to taste my semen. Bet I can paint the face like it's murder season. Tampa villains, we the realest breed. I'm talking CEOs in business meetings. But you the type that'll kill for the pussy. Catch AIDS and get ill for the pussy. She don't hear me like Bill for the pussy. Stay in the court and just squeal for the pussy like
Benzino maintains that his beef is not directly with Eminem, it's more with the frustration of the music industry and how they're constantly supporting Eminem and not black artists. He says that the music industry at that time was letting Eminem get away with anything. He could say anything on a track and yet it would still be on radio, it would still be promoted, he would still go to award shows, but if a black artist did these things, he would get less recognition. So Benzino says that he attacked Eminem to get more attention on the fact that black artists aren't getting treated as well as a white artist such as Eminem. He was also frustrated at the fact that Eminem, being a white hip-hop artist, was selling a lot more albums than black artists. So to bring more attention to this and to get more coverage for black artists and to support more black artists, he decided to diss Eminem. That's what Benzino says is what started the whole situation.
A lot is being made out of you going at dissing Eminem. Talk about it.
Oh, man. Marshall. I'm saying it ain't really like I was going at Marshall, you know what I'm saying, personally. I was pretty much attacking the machine. You know, Marshall's just the hood on me. And it's a situation where I think that, you know, we just got to be conscious of what's going on and like the double standard, you know, in hip-hop. That's why Rap City's so important. Because, you know what I'm saying, you give, you know, artists, you know what I'm saying, that probably might not be heard on a higher level, you know, a chance to get their stuff out there. And we got to understand that because hip-hop came from the street, it came from the struggle, right? I think that the powers that be took Marshall and pretty much, you know, dressed him up with the blonde hair and everything and set him up for a certain audience, you know what I'm saying? And then, you know, just as long as he gets the stamp from the hood, you know what I mean, then right now certain media outlets are considering him to be #1. You know, because I don't think he's #1. Maybe, you know, record sales is one thing, but you know, we gotta look at see really what's going on and you know, the double standard. I know I couldn't talk about my mother and have a video showing, you know, her getting buried. I know I wouldn't be able to do it.
Right.
I think that we get censored as artists, and you know, we have to make certain type of songs to get burned. So it's a situation where, you know, I just want it to be an even playing field. I'm not trying to take away or saying, you know, people don't mess with his music. I'm saying to those 8 million people, look at everybody else. Give everybody else a fair chance.
Eminem, though, on the other hand, says that Benzino is just jealous. He's trying to get relevant and sell records of his upcoming album because at that time he was getting ready to release an album. So he used the Source magazine to go against him. And Eminem said that Benzino is just a magazine writer and that he's trying to build his career off of the Source magazine and off of his own career, and that he'll never be a good rapper and that his music has never taken off. Eminem also stated that he has no idea where Benzino decided to start dissing him out of nowhere. He says he never disrespected the Source magazine or Benzino ever in his life.
I mean, did something happen to spark that between you and him? Did anything happen? I mean,
Angie, I swear on my daughter's life, I never met this dude. I never met this man, this girl in my life. I never met this woman. She is obsessed with me. I cannot understand it. And you can't play two sides of the fence. You can't be a rapper. You can't be a rapper and own a magazine. Own half of a magazine, because then what happens is you call rappers that you like. You call them and you want them to make a guest appearance on your album, and if they don't want to do it because you suck, then he's going to take you out that magazine. So you can't play both sides of the fence like that. You just can't do it.
So that's what motivated you to even...
That's what motivated me.
However, like I mentioned earlier, there is a third perspective, and this perspective is more of a rumored one based on track record. Now, the Source magazine used to be a hip-hop Bible for anyone that wanted news on hip-hop and anyone that wanted any suggestions on what albums to buy. They used to have this section in the Source magazine called the Record Report, and that's where they would rate albums 1 out of 5 mics. If your album got 4 to 5 mics, it was a really good album, and more than likely, a lot of people would buy it. If it got anything below a 4, usually it would be a bad album, and nobody would really buy it. and fans would basically worship this magazine, and whatever they said was hot, a lot of people would purchase, and this basically was the world star of that time, way before social media. So Eminem would release albums, but they wouldn't get the ratings that Eminem would like, and Eminem would voice his frustration with that on tracks. And this is when people said Eminem had issues with the Source magazine. When Eminem released his second album, the Marshall Mathers LP, on May 23rd, 2000, the first initial mic rating for this album was 2 out of 5 mics. And the backlash that the Source magazine got was insane. So much so that they had to re-rate the album and instead gave it 4 mics out of 5, because every other magazine at that time and every other reviewer and music critic gave it something like 4 out of 5 mics, 4 out of 5 stars, 9 out of 10. Whatever the rating system was, it was a very high rating for that album. So because they got that backlash, they decided to re-rate it, and this is where people are saying the issues with Eminem and the Source magazine initially started, because Eminem didn't understand why his album only got 2 mics and then got re-rated to only 4 mics. Then when Eminem released his third album, The Eminem Show, on May 26, 2002, on the track Say What You Say, he decided to call out the Source magazine for only giving him 4 mics.
5 mics in a Source, ain't holding my fucking breath, but I'll suffocate for the respect, for I breathe to collect the fucking check. What you say is what you say.
You know what used to bother me? Yeah, it's been the mic rating system in the Source. Like when I was a kid growing up in the early 90s on hip hop, the Source, as we used to know it, was the Bible of hip hop. Like it was, their word was gold. If somebody got 4 mics, you was going to cop it. If somebody got 5 mics, you was going to cop it. Somebody got 3.5, yeah, you know, you didn't know. But their word was gold, and they was usually right.
I know that you have yet to receive a 5 mic review in the Source. Is that something that was...
I have yet to receive even a 4.5. Everybody gets a 4. Everybody, like, that's the standard now. That's the standard. If you get a 4.5, that must mean that Benzino wants you on his album.
After this line on that song is when people speculated for Eminem to have issues with the Source magazine, which would then have issues with Benzino. Fast forward to September 25th through the 28th in 2002, and Eminem appeared in Puerto Rico for the Mixtape Summit show. While he was there, he was promoting his movie 8 Mile and decided to perform. Apparently, the rumor was that Benzino attempted to talk to him backstage, but Eminem ignored him because he did not get 5 mics for his album, The Eminem Show. However, I want to clarify, none of this was confirmed. This was just a rumor. It wasn't confirmed by Benzino that this happened, and it wasn't confirmed that Eminem ignored him. Eminem never spoke on this. However, Obi Trice got interviewed about this in July 30th, 2012 by Hip Hop DX. They asked him about the beef between Eminem and Benzino and how it even started. And in this interview, Obi confirms that Eminem was at the Mixtape Summit show, and Obi did run into Benzino and they briefly talked. However, he did not confirm or deny that Eminem was ignoring Benzino or Benzino even tried to contact Eminem at that time. The Hip Hop DX interviewer said, "Something I like to do years after the fact is kind of go back in time with a veteran artist and revisit something I know something you were involved with was the whole Benzino situation. Could you maybe talk about what that time was like and that whole Source beef?" Obi Trice then said, "Well, the thing with the Benzino beef was that we were in Puerto Rico and I saw him out there. I was coming out with Cheers, which was his album at the time, and he said we were at the Mixtape Show Power Summit and I seen him out there and I said, look out for me on the Source mag, man, hook me up with a good review. It was just man-to-man good conversation, and he was like, man, I got you, Obi, I got you, man, don't worry about it, I got you." So that was a Saturday, and I flew home that Sunday, and that Monday, DJ Green Lantern called me from New York and was just telling me like, dog, Benzino is on Hot 97 right now, dissing the fuck out of you. So it kind of blew me away because I'm fresh in the game, and I believe your word is everything. And at that time, I had no clue of how fickle the industry was. So based off of what Obi Trice is saying is that Obi Trice ran into Benzino and there was no issues. Everything seemed fine. Then a few days later, Benzino got on Hot 97 and decided to diss Eminem and Obi Trice and the rest of the D12 group. Based on Obi Trice's response, it would have been September 30th, 2002, when Benzino went to Hot 97 and decided to diss them. Apparently in that interview, Benzino also mentioned Eminem acted strange towards him during the Mixtape Summit show, and that's why he started going at Eminem. He said the only reason why Eminem is selling records is because he's white, and he's the new 2002 Vanilla Ice, and he's not going to be around forever, so on and so forth. The only unfortunate thing is I could not find the audio for this interview. I looked all over the internet, so you're just going to have to take my word for it based on my research. Following that, a few weeks later, on October 24th, 2002, Benzino, along with his artist Jeff x2, released a mixtape called Hood Stories Volume 1. And on this mixtape, there was a song called I Don't Wanna, and that's the first track where Benzino is dissing Eminem on wax.
The only Eminem I know is made men, nigga. By the way, he ain't never gonna play me. I show this bitch what it really is to be shady. I don't care how much record you sold. You can't walk through the hood without the men in black. Disrespect your mom's bitch, you deserve a smack. It's not a black and white thing, that shit's in the past. I got some white boys from Boston that'll bust your ass, nigga.
Following that, on October 30th, 2002, 50 Cent and G-Unit decided to take over Hot 97 because Angie Martinez was on the road because she was a judge for American Idol. So 50 Cent took it over alongside Lloyd Banks and Tony Yayo, and while there, Eminem decided to call in. When Eminem called in, he talked about his new movie 8 Mile and then started trolling on air. He said, I want to request that new Benzino record. It's hot. See if you could find that and play it for me. You may have to dig in the trash. It may be in the bottom of the trash can. 50 Cent then basically played the record, which was the diss I Don't Wanna. Then Eminem said, it's like when you buy a product from the store, a blender, you get it home and try to use it, but it doesn't work. Then he continued dissing him and then made up the name Has Benzino and said, I don't know about that. I don't know if he's ever been popping. Unfortunately, I could not find the audio of this. I was looking all over the place, but could not find it. I could only find the script of what they said when this was happening. The crazy thing is, though, on this day later that night, Jam Master Jay was murdered. So let's not forget that. Let's send RIP condolences to him. Following that, in early November 2002, Benzino decided to respond with another diss track on wax called Pull Your Skirt Up, and on this track he was dissing Eminem and Obi Trice.
Let me start from the beginning. You ain't repping the streets. No. You from the outskirts of Detroit, where the bitches meet. I'm gonna pull your skirt up, expose your true sex, antagonize your label till I get my respect. You ran to your manager, ask him how to handle this. 5 shades darker, motherfucker, you be cannabis. You was unsigned hype before you ever met Dre. I birthed your little career, now you owe your life to Ray. The 5 mic giver, the Marshall Maggot Ripper.
After this diss track came out, it was official. Benzino had released 2 new diss tracks against Eminem, and Eminem had not responded at all. He was silent on this situation, besides the time when he called in for the 50 Cent radio host show on Hot 97. But other than that, there was no diss tracks from Eminem, and the reason why, according to Eminem, was because his manager Paul Rosenberg wasn't trying to start a beef with Benzino. He was trying to hash it out. Then randomly, a few weeks later, on November 21st, 2002, late night DJ K Slay on Hot 97 premiered 2 new Eminem diss tracks going at Benzino. One was called The Sauce, and the other was called Nail in the Coffin.
When the unsigned hype column and the source was like our only source of life. When the mics used to mean something, the 4 was like you were the shit. Now it's like the least you get. 3.5 now just means you a piece of shit. 4.5 or 5 means you Biggie, Jigga, Nas, or Benzino. Shit, I don't even think you realize you're playing with motherfuckers' lives. I don't watch Dre get fucked on the chronic, probably cause I was on it. Now you fucked me out of my mics twice, I let it slide. I said I wouldn't hold my fucking breath to get a 5. Shit, I was right, I'd have fucking died already trying. You sit behind a fucking desk at the source, butt kissing and begging motherfuckers for guest appearances. And you can't even get the clearances, cause real lyricists don't even even respect you or take you serious. It's not that we don't like you, we hate you, period.
After these two diss tracks dropped, it was official. Both artists have gone on wax responding to each other with diss tracks. Then a few weeks later, and the DJ Green Lantern Invasion Part 1 Shady Times mixtape came out. And on this mixtape, there was a few more diss tracks going at Benzino. The first title track was called Invasion, also known as We the Realest track. And Obi Trice decided to respond to Benzino himself with a track called Welcome to Detroit City.
Here we go, I should've known I was bound to get pulled into some bullshit. Sooner or later, you little haters are too jealous of us to love us. You hated G-Unit, made it, then Obi's coming, D-Twizzy's coming, you're sick to your stomach. 50% if it's 50 Cent, the other 50% if it's whose color of skin it is. But if you even considering taking our label down, you better find our building and fly a fucking plane into it.
What's strange to me, Benzino been in the game and Obi just came, and he ain't got more fame than me. That's wild. Blame it on the white boy, nigga, that's your style. But rapping, it ain't happening. Fathom the thought, stick to journalism, that's your art. And apart from responding, I know the source to tell him don't cop him. Obi Trice's album's not popping.
Then on December 5th, 2002, Benzino responded and he released a new track with a video called Die Another Day. And on this track and video, he went all out dissing Eminem. He basically blamed Eminem for being a white supremacist in hip-hop. He went at Eminem's manager, Paul Rosenberg. He went at Eminem's daughter and threatened her life. He even went at 50 Cent, D12, and Obi Trice. Basically, everything and everyone affiliated with Eminem.
Paul Rosenberg, you fat fucking pig. I'm holding you responsible for what this bitch did. Cause you called me up trying to cop a plea. As far as I'm concerned, you both gon' bleed. You dyed your hair blonde, I'ma make it red. How you gon' sell records, Marshall, when you dead? Make you pay for that bullshit you talking. I'm going hard in the streets of New York. And you better keep my kids out your fucking mouth before I put a Glock in your motherfucking mouth. Tell Haley it ain't safe no more. Daddy better watch your back at the candy store. You fucked up. Resort to plan B. Fuck around, she end up like Joan Benet Ramsey. Matter of fact, you better check the DNA. She probably ain't yours, and where's your wife Kim anyway? She's on her knees somewhere sucking 50 Cent. I know you wishing you were there, cause you on his dick. You dressing drag, you hugging up on Elton John. You closet fag, I'm a king, you a little pawn.
Then just a few weeks later, on December 23rd, 2002, Eminem decided to call into Hot 97 and talk with Angie Martinez about this whole beef and how it escalated to this point. Following that, Benzino decided to release his own mixtape going at Eminem and the Shady Aftermath camp, and the mixtape was called Benzino Presents Die Another Day Flawless Victory, and he released this on January 1st, 2003. And on this mixtape, there were quite a few new diss tracks going at Eminem and the rest of the Shady camp. In the beginning, he decided to do an intro of Eminem, basically shouting out the source, thanking them for the support in the past. Then he decided to leak Paul Rosenberg's alleged conversation with him on the phone. And then he decided to put a bunch of different diss tracks. He included the Pull Your Skirt Up track, he included the Die Another Day, and he included the I Don't Wanna track. But he also included other tracks such as Load 'Em Up, which was a new diss track, Fuck the Tough Talk, Better Lose Yourself, and much more.
Eminem still on Benzino dick, talking about him dead broke, then you must be crazy. Every time you up in the sauce, your label gotta pay me. Make me come to Detroit and put the gun to Haley. Have everybody like
Benzino going crazy.
Top it. I don't care how many nails you put in my coffin. Ask your baby mom why she take flights to Boston. Everybody like, why you fucking with M? He made 3 diss records, man, I'm under his skin. You better stick to dissing cats like Fred Durst and Britney. I'm a made man, it's kinda hard to hit me. Don't think the guns won't blow, cause you signed 50.
After this, then Benzino released his new album on January 14th, 2003 called Redemption. The album unfortunately did not perform well. The album only sold 20,000 copies within the first week, and the album featured the diss track Pull Your Skirt Up, and he decided to work with a lot of people that 50 Cent had issues with at that time, such as Lil' Kim, Black Child, and Cadillac Ta from Murder Inc. After this is when the magazine war officially started, because in February 2003, The Source released a new magazine with Ja Rule on the cover, who was having issues with 50 Cent at that time. And on that magazine, Benzino was interviewed about his album and interviewed about his issues with Eminem, and decided to diss him throughout the whole magazine. He sat down with the Source interviewer, and the interviewer said, "You've been quite outspoken recently about a lot of things, including the state of hip-hop. What do you think about the direction we're headed in?" Benzino then said, "Definitely a dangerous path, because while it's going mainstream, hip-hop's forgotten about the little guys, and that's real harmful. That's why I talk about the machine and Eminem. The mainstream is dictating our creativity." The interviewer then asks, "Define dictating our creativity." He then says, "We have to do a certain type of song to get played on the radio. Now that the powers that be have somebody whose skin color they can relate to, everything is fine. Nobody is saying anything about Eminem or what he is rapping about. We get censored all the time when we talk about getting our asses beat by the police or other sorts of injustices." Then the interviewer asks, "What was your motivation for recording those diss tracks?" He said, "He's the hood ornament on the big truck. You have to go at him. There are a lot of people in this world who buy hip-hop, but they don't like us. They like the beats and the rhymes, but they don't like us. So now the Eminem machine has sucked all the sales away from every artist." Then the interviewer says, "But you can't deny that Eminem is on top of his game right now and is considered one of the top MCs. You recognize his talent, don't you?" Benzino then said, "Yes, definitely." Then the interviewer asked, "Has anyone from Eminem's camp tried to contact you?" Benzino then said his manager, Paul Rosenberg, "But this guy is just selling out Eminem." The interviewer then says, "If M wanted to have a sit down with you, would you do it?" Benzino surprisingly said, "Yes, I would do it." Following this magazine release and interview, on February 18th, 2003, the Cradle to the Grave soundtrack was released, and on the song Go to Sleep, it featured Eminem, Obi Trice, and DMX, and Eminem and Obi Trice decided to diss Benzino, and Eminem towards the end decided to call out Ja Rule. And from this diss track is when Ja Rule got involved with dissing Eminem, and everybody got intertwined. If you want to see that portion of the beef where 50 Cent and Ja Rule go at it, and Eminem and Ja Rule go at it, I covered it with 50 Cent versus Ja Rule, Who Really Won, parts 1 and 2. Go ahead and check that out. But this is about Eminem and Benzino and the magazine beef, so we're not going to be talking about anything that Ja Rule does against Eminem and 50 Cent, since I already covered it.
There ain't gonna be no reason speaking with me. You speak on my seed and me no speaking English. So we gonna beef and keep on beefing unless you're gonna agree to meet with me in the flesh. Me do this all on my only. I don't need 15 of my homies. When I see you, I'm seeing you. Me and you only.
Following that Go to Sleep diss track from Eminem, calling out Ja Rule and dissing Benzino more, in March 2003, XXL responded to The Source by featuring Eminem, 50 Cent, and Dr. Dre on the cover of their magazine, and in this magazine, everyone is going at Benzino and Ja Rule. In the March 2003 XXL magazine, the interviewer asked, "Speaking of wanting Eminem dead, that's what Benzino has been calling for recently. Tell me about your relationship with him and The Source." Eminem said, "Growing up, that was the magazine. That was the Bible of hip-hop. Every month, me and my people would go to the store to get it. The first thing that we always look for was the hip-hop quotable, and then the unsigned hype, and then we look at the mics. If somebody got 4 mics or 4.5 mics, then we went and bought your shit. Me and Proof and the people that we were down with, we didn't have much money, so if a record got 3.5 or 3, we'd take turns buying tapes to check it out and see if they had anything on it. But if the Source gave it 4, 4.5, or 5, we went out and bought it, no question. The word was golden. But now the game is fucked up, it's tainted, so now as far as me personally and The Source, I'm done." The interviewer then asked, "What's led to that?" "Well, a lot of things," Eminem said. "I've been shortchanged in the magazine since I came out, and Dre has been shortchanged too." So as I mentioned earlier in the video on how this beef started, it's basically because they kept getting low mics on their albums. Then Dr. Dre was asked about this whole situation and how he felt about it, because before this, he had been relatively quiet, and it had been basically Eminem and 50 Cent talking most of the time. The interviewer then asked, "Dre, you have been dragged into this Murder Inc. beef or the Benzino beef. How do you keep yourself from getting embroiled? Dr. Dre then says, to tell you the truth, I don't give a fuck about any of it. 50 then steps in and says, if they're smart at all, they won't say anything about Dr. Dre. People that disrespect Dre come back eventually to try and make it okay because he's going to consistently make hit records. Dr. Dre then says, and that's all I want to do. I want to make motherfucking records. I don't care about none of that bullshit. Straight up, I'm healthy. I'm rich as a motherfucker. What the fuck do I need that in my life for? So throughout the whole magazine, they were essentially explaining why they got into a battle with Benzino in the Source magazine. XXL even asked why they're cool again with Eminem because Eminem had issues with XXL a while ago. Following this, on April 15th, 2003, another DJ Green Lantern mixtape dropped, and this was Shady Invasion Part 2. And on this mixtape, there were multiple tracks going at Ja Rule and Benzino. The tracks were the intro track, The Conspiracy, Bump Heads, Hail Mary, Do Re Mi, We All Die One Day, and Keep Talking.
Your magazine's a motherfucking thing. You're using staples to hold it together. It's turning back into a newspaper. And y'all got something for my ass every issue. Thank you, cause I keep running out of fucking tissue. And not to diss you, but God, I was sick of looking at you. At least now I can see when Nike's got a new tennis shoe.
Keep talking, keep on popping off with them jaws because we ain't stopping. We ain't got to prove shit to y'all, so all y'all can lick the balls and keep walking.
I ain't here to talk about Benzino or Ja Rule. I'm here to talk about Little Ray Ray and what I'ma do. Besides, I ain't gonna mention it, he probably too. Next week, it should be out on DJ Clue.
Then Benzino responded in May 2003 with his own diss track called Falling Down, and on this diss track he was mainly calling out 50 Cent and G-Unit, but then he took shots at Dr. Dre and Eminem as well.
The Fed's first artist, Eminem's son. 3-time platinum snitch, always on the run. Sacrificial meat, the machine money maker. Dre stealing beats, steady saying he made them. See no spit heat, always ready street sweeping. 50 50 50 cal hollow heat seekers. The magazine, kill the kid if I have to. Tie him up, chainsaw his legs in the bathroom. Your good leader is a trailer park bozo. Snatch him from behind, rip his spine out his torso.
Following that, on June 3rd, 2003, Eminem was headlining the Hot 97 Summer Jam show with 50 Cent. And then when Eminem came out, he decided to bring out his Source Award and decided to smash it. The article says the height of Eminem's disdain would come later in the show when he had Obi Trice bring out his 2000 Source Award for Lyricist of the Year. Slim talked about his battle with the magazine and its co-owner, Ray Benzino. "Take your motherfucking award back," he yelled, slamming it to the ground. Almost as soon as the trophy smashed, the guitar riff from Lose Yourself came on, commencing another of the night's feverish moments. The next record, 8 Mile, was equally energetic. Then on July 2nd, 2003, the G-Unit Radio Part 3 mixtape, Taking It to the Streets, was released, and on this mixtape there was a track called Shit Hits the Fan, in which Dr. Dre was responding finally to Benzino. Then on September 23rd, 2003, the new studio album from Obi Trice called Cheers was released, and on this album they featured the track Shit Hits the Fan, and on the outro track, which was a new diss track going at Benzino and Ja Rule. Following that, and in August 2003, 50 Cent graced the cover of XXL magazine, and in this cover he decided to go at Ja Rule and Benzino a lot, and the editor at that time was Elliot Wilson, and he decided to even go at Benzino and the Source magazine and called them out, saying that they're way out of their league, and XXL magazine is going way past the Source magazine and is becoming the #1 dominant source for hip-hop. However, Benzino did not like this, and according to Benzino, he went over to their offices, he saw Elliot Wilson, and apparently did something to him to get him to apologize.
Elliot Wilson, I went up to the offices and seen dude, and dude apologized immediately. Yeah, you know, I don't want to tell you what took place, you know, because it ain't about incrimination. But yeah, I went up there, and he actually apologized in front of the whole staff. Had him apologize in front of the whole staff. So, you know.
Following this, on October 7th, 2003, there was a new album from the hip hop group Booyah Tribe called West Coast Nostra. And on track 4, which was called 9/11, it featured Eminem, and Eminem was taking subliminal shots towards Ja Rule and Benzino.
Nobody saw it happen, all cause your jaws are flapping and you couldn't stop yapping and took it past rapping. It ain't about the music no more, it's about trying to show off, and it feels like any minute the bomb is about to go off.
Following this, just a month later, on November 7th, 2003, the Eminem mixtape Straight from the Lab leaked, and this wasn't an official Eminem mixtape. This was something that Eminem's brother's friend accidentally leaked online. He took the tracks, posted them, and a lot of these tracks were recorded a long time ago. Unfortunately, though, a lot of these tracks featured disses against Ja Rule and Benzino, tracks such as Monkey See, Monkey Do, Bully, and Come On In.
I'm withholding my anger, though I'd like to be the strangler of this punk-ass little pussy's puny neck. It's my right to insist that he acknowledge my existence, but he just displays complete lack of respect. That's what he says to himself as he uses magazines to trash me as he sits with both his feet up at his desk.
After all these diss tracks have come out, Benzino had been relatively quiet and hadn't released anything. But on November 18th, 2003, all of that would change. On that date, Benzino and the Source magazine held a press conference and revealed that Eminem had old tapes and old songs where he was using racial slurs.
50 cal hollow heat seekers. The magazine, kill the kid if I have to. Tie him up, chainsaw his legs in the bathroom. Your leader is a trailer park bozo. Snatch him from behind, rip his spine out his torso.
Following that, on June 3rd, 2003, Eminem was headlining the Hot 97 Summer Jam show with 50 Cent. And then when Eminem came out, he decided to bring out his Source Award and decided to smash it. The article says the height of...
We can hear the music now.
I'll get straight to the point. Black girls are bitches. That's why I'ma tell you, you better pull up your britches. Cause all that cash is making your ass drag from the boyfriend you get. And that's pretty bad.
I can't think of a more, important and pivotal moment in our history and the Source's history, our personal histories than right here tonight.
Black girls and white girls just don't mix because black girls are dumb and white girls are good chicks. White girls are good. I like white girls.
Black women are bad, white women are good. I don't care if he's redeemed himself now. That's not the message. And if that's who he is, then he has to be held accountable for that. I want to see what he's going to say now. The ball's is in his court now.
And Eminem immediately responded to the allegations that he was racist and released a statement saying, Ray Benzino, Dave Mays, and The Source have had a vendetta against me, Shady Records, and our artists for a long time. The tape they played today was something I made out of anger, stupidity, and frustration when I was a teenager. I just broken up with my girlfriend, who was African American, and I reacted like an angry, stupid kid I was. I hope people will take it for the foolishness that it was, not for what somebody is trying to make it today. Following the statement, The Source was going to distribute an Eminem CD with all the racial slurs on its February edition of their magazine, but Eminem stopped that because he ended up suing The Source right after the statement was made. In legal papers filed in Manhattan federal court Monday, Eminem's Shady Records is seeking an injunction preventing the magazine from distributing the CD in its February edition. Eminem claims the magazine's owners and chief executive David Mays have breached federal copyright laws by reproducing the previously unreleased recording. He wants unspecified damages. After that, on January 16th, 2004, DJ Green Lantern released the Shady Invasion Part 3 mixtape, and on track number 3, Eminem is spitting a freestyle going at Benzino.
I got a riddle. What's little and talks big with midget arms and creamy white filling in the middle that'll do anything to throw dirt on my name if it means walking a whole Mediterranean. Is it an Albanian, Armenian, Iranian, Tasmanian? No, it's Dave Raymond and oh sorry, yo, so sorry, whoa. But that was a long time ago when I was just Joe Schmo rapping in Joe Blow's basement. I apologize for it before, so either accept it or you don't, and let's move on and find shown that I've grown and get the bone.
Following that, in February 2004, Eminem graced the cover of The Source magazine once again, but it was all for the wrong reasons. They revealed a lot of information on why Eminem was a racist. They even attached a CD with the magazine, but due to Eminem's lawsuit, they could only preview 20 seconds of the racist tracks that Eminem recorded a while ago. Following this, on March 30th, 2004, Eminem did a track with Obi Trice called I'm Gone on the DJ K Slay album, The Street Sweeper Volume 2, and on this track he subliminally goes at Benzino.
And I hope you got the heart to fight, cause you gon' have to. You ain't got the smarts to write something that good. You try to come back at me with, what you gonna do? Try to out-rap me with that happy shit? You motherfuckers crack me up. Talking about you gonna smack me up. Y'all won't even back me up.
Following this, much of the battle between Eminem and Benzino had gone off wax and into courtrooms because they were suing each other left and right. But Eminem had to get a lot off his chest in the music still, and on November 12, 2004, he released his new album Encore, and on 3 tracks he was addressing a lot of the situations between Benzino, The Source magazine, and Ja Rule. On the track Yellow Brick Road, Eminem addressed the racist tapes and apologized. On the track Big Weenie, he made fun of Benzino and said that he'll never be the rapper that Eminem is, and that Benzino is jealous because of Eminem's talent. Then on the track Like Toy Soldiers, he essentially ended the beef between Ja Rule and Benzino and said that he's done with it.
Even if it means going toe-to-toe with the Benzino, it don't matter. I never drag him in battles that I can handle unless I absolutely have to. I'm supposed to set an example. Now I'm the owner of it. He's got a grudge against me for nothing. Well, fuck it, that motherfucker could get it too. Fuck him. I'll walk away from it all before I let it go any further.
What the intent of the song, what the intent was to do, is to just say at least from our side, like, this is a chapter in our lives that we want to close, and we want to move on from this beef.
Also around this time, when Eminem was promoting his Encore album, he ended up stopping by Tim Westwood's show alongside D12, and him and Proof ended up spitting a freestyle over the Got It Twisted beat, and some of the lines were going at Benzino and Ja Rule. However, Benzino felt a different way, and on January 5th, 2005, he responded to Eminem's Like Toy Soldiers track and video. He released a track and video called Look Into My Eyes, and this video essentially picks up where Eminem's Like Toy Soldiers left off. And in that song and video, Benzino takes blame for murdering Proof. And this is crazy because, as we know, a year and a few months later, in April 2006, Proof was actually shot and killed during an altercation in a nightclub in Detroit.
Yeah.
He's dead. He's dead. They killed him, Jimmy.
Calm down. Calm down. What happened?
I told you this would happen. This shit is crazy.
Marshall, I told you there was going to be some casualties here. We have to look at this as a sacrifice. As long as this doesn't happen to people like us, we're all right.
No, I want out. I'm scared. I've always been scared. This isn't me.
If Eminem wanna squash beat, tell him call me. Where you at? Need him anywhere. He can bring his own long.
After this song and video, like I said, Eminem was over the beef and battle that he had with Benzino and The Source magazine. He even decided to drop the lawsuit against The Source on March 23rd, 2005. His attorney, Donald David, said the case is being dropped because there is nothing left to win. The judge already decided we have the copyright, and he awarded us $131,000 in sanctions, so the case has no purpose anymore. Following that, on April 8th, 2005, Benzino officially quit working for The Source magazine. He said, "I want to step down from the magazine and sell my stock effective immediately. I've consumed too much with this whole conflict thing, the Eminem lawsuit, and I'm sick of it. I don't want it to take away from what The Source has built up, but I got issues with The Source and magazines like that. Everyone is too politically correct. They're not thinking about the little guy who can't afford to pay for high-priced ads. It's like a monopoly." Following his retirement, the last diss track on Wax was released from Proof on April 25th, 2005 off his Grown Man Shit mixtape. The track was called Oil Can Harry. After this last diss track on Wax, everyone went their separate ways. Eminem started working on his music still. He ended up disappearing due to drug problems, but he kept releasing music after that. Benzino ended up taking a new job and developing a new company called Hip Hop Weekly. He also ended up appearing on Love and Hip Hop, and now he's continuously doing that. Benzino has been apologizing to Eminem throughout the years for what he's done and why he even started the beef. He's apologized in 2011, 2012, and various other times.
I mean, the shots that I took, I guess, at his family and everything, I apologize for that, because sometimes, you know, I look at that, put in my shoes. You don't want people going at your kids, your family, because then that takes it out there. To this day, we've never been even 50 feet in front of each other. So, you know what I mean? Hey, you know what I'm saying? Before it's all over for Zeno, who knows? You know what I'm saying? We might be 60, 70 years old, run across each other and sit back and laugh about this, you know? I mean, I would like that. You know, I don't know how he feels, but, you know.
However, when Eminem released his Revival album, which is his latest album, on January 21st, 2018, earlier this year, Benzino decided to call the album trash. He said on Twitter, "Can somebody tell these weirdo M fans that in this culture of hip-hop, they are the subculture," meaning nobody gives a flying fuck about anything they have to say when it comes to him right now. The album is trash, so take the L and move on. Thank you and good night. So clearly he has some feelings towards Eminem still, even though he's apologized in the past and has said he's gotten over the situation. Eminem, however, has not said a single thing about Benzino since 2004 when he was interviewed by MTV about the situation. Other than that, he hasn't said a single thing. He's moved on completely. Now let's talk about who won the battle portion of the beef, which is the short-term portion of the beef in the midst of the battle, who won. And then let's talk about who won the war portion of the beef after the battle settled down, who has longevity, who is still around. In terms of who won the battle portion, it's very clear that Eminem won simply because he is the rapper in this situation. He's very lyrical and kept coming at Benzino with a bunch of diss tracks that were way beyond what Benzino could do lyrically. Although, in my opinion, Benzino had two great diss tracks, which was Die Another Day and that track that's called Falling Down, which dissed 50 Cent more than Eminem. Those two diss tracks, in my opinion, were dope and were overlooked. People just completely called them trash, even though I felt like he had some great bars in those.